Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we are going on a seriously fascinating journey, tracing the everyday choices we make all the way up to massive national economic policies. We're going to look at how the exact same principles apply from the micro to the macro, and how it can completely change the way we view the world.
So, let's just jump right in. Ask yourself this. What is the opportunity cost of you choosing to watch this explainer right now? By deciding to focus your attention here, you're actively choosing not to do something else. Maybe you could be reading a book, getting a head start on work, or just taking a well-deserved nap. Grounding economic theory in our own reality makes us realize that every single choice we make, big or small, has a hidden alternative cost attached to it.
Here's how we're going to break things down today. First up, the cost of choosing. Then, we'll look at government spending trade-offs. After that, we're tackling the poverty problem. And finally, we'll dive into the specific policies used to alleviate poverty.
All right, part one, the cost of choosing, understanding trade-offs. Let's get right into it.
The classic textbook definition here is actually incredibly powerful. Opportunity cost is the cost of the next best opportunity foregone when making a decision. Pay attention to that word foregone, because we can't have it all. Because alternatives almost always exist in life, every single choice you make carries a cost. When you pick one path, you are sacrificing the next best option available to you.
Let's make this super concrete with a relatable example. Say it's Saturday night, and you decide to hit up the cinema with your friends. Sounds like a good time, right? But the opportunity cost isn't just the $20 you spent on overpriced popcorn. It's the money you could have earned if you stayed home and babysat for your neighbor instead. You literally paid for that movie night with the wages you missed out on.
And this exact same logic applies to institutions too. Imagine a local school. They've got a little bit of budget left over, and they decide to buy 100 new classroom laptops. Obviously a massive win for the tech department. But the opportunity cost? It's the new science equipment they can no longer afford to buy as a result. Institutions face these exact same trade-offs every single day. Gaining the tech means sacrificing the science gear. Resources are just always finite.
This even scales up to massive life choices. Think about getting a university undergrad degree. You're giving up years of your life. The opportunity cost is absolutely not just the tuition fees, it is the massive loss in income you would have earned if you just jumped straight into the workforce instead of studying. Kind of wild when you think about it that way, right? Have you ever actually weighed the true hidden cost of your own educational journey?
Okay, moving on to part two. Government spending trade-offs, the macro choices. Let's scale this all the way up.
Just wrap your head around this number for a second. $329 billion. This massive figure is from the 2017 U.S. federal budget, and I'm bringing this up to show you the sheer, staggering scale of national economic decisions. When a government collects a finite amount of tax revenue, they have to sit down and decide exactly how to carve up that pie across various public sectors.
Now, what's really fascinating here is looking at those stark budget trade-offs. You've got this massive 42.2% chunk going to labor and social affairs. Weigh that against the much smaller slices, like 11.1% for national defense or just 5.3% for education and research. Keep in mind, every single percentage point here represents literally billions of dollars. These are incredibly high-stakes decisions.
So the crucial takeaway here is this. Increased spending in one area absolutely may lead to decreased spending in another, period. Opportunity cost applies even when you're dealing with hundreds of billions of dollars. If a government decides, hey, we want a bigger military slice, that fundamentally means shrinking the slice for something else like education or healthcare. There is simply no escaping the reality of trade-offs, no matter how rich a country might be.
Which brings us to part three, tackling the poverty problem. This is the ultimate trade-off, looking at how societies use their limited resources to address systemic issues.
When a government commits to redistributing income and making sure citizens have their basic needs met, they generally pull from four distinct policy methods: improving education, providing state benefits, implementing progressive taxation, and establishing a minimum wage. Let's dive right into part four, policies to alleviate poverty. We're going to look at how each of these four approaches actually builds a more equitable economy. Approach number one, improving education. Investing in the government provision of education is basically like growing an economy from the ground up. By improving access to schools for everyone, it actively narrows the gap between the rich and the poor. Because, let's face it, a person's level of education heavily dictates their earning potential. So over time, boosting the quantity and quality of education improves the human capital and the productive capacity of the entire country.
The second approach relies on direct financial assistance. Providing more generous state benefits gets necessary funds straight to the unemployed and the disadvantaged so they can meet their basic needs. Whether we're talking about unemployment benefits, state pensions for the elderly, or child benefits to reduce child poverty, these payments redistribute income directly. It essentially creates a safety net, ensuring every citizen has access to the bare essentials, even if they can't participate in the workforce.
Now, since unemployment is one of the biggest root causes of poverty and inequality, governments also have to lean on macroeconomic policies. This means pouring resources into government-funded job creation, retraining schemes, or even offering incentives to attract foreign direct investment. Putting funding into getting people back to work directly lifts households out of poverty by giving them a sustainable, long-term income. It's a real game changer.
Then we have our third strategy, progressive taxation. The logic here is incredibly simple, but so profoundly powerful when it comes to closing the wealth gap. Step 1. Higher income groups pay a correspondingly higher percentage of their income in tax. Step 2. The government takes those proceeds and actively uses them to support lower income groups or folks without any income at all. It is hands down one of the most common and direct methods used worldwide to redistribute income and wealth.
Finally, we have the minimum wage. By introducing or increasing a national minimum wage, a government enforces a legal floor on earnings. This directly elevates the baseline living standard for the working poor. It basically mandates that anyone participating in the labor market gets a wage that actually helps them afford the basic costs of living. It's a super powerful tool to alleviate economic hardship for low-income households.
Well, we have definitely covered a lot of ground today, from the personal opportunity cost of you watching this explainer all the way to macro strategies for lifting up a nation's most vulnerable. But, the journey of understanding economics never truly ends. So I want to leave you with two big questions to chew on. What are the true signs of poverty in an economy? And, looking back at our own individual choices, why might one person choose to save way more of their income than another? Keep questioning, keep analyzing those trade-offs, and I will see you in the next explainer.